let's take a look at how administrators, adoption managers, or really anyone working with different data sources can use Excel and Copilot together to organize that information across multiple worksheets. Like many of the other demonstrations I've been through, I want to make sure that we can replicate well-defined instruction sets that can deliver consistent response structures regardless of the number of times we run it. I also want to show you how Copilot's Excel agent can take these instructions and build the workbook in just a few minutes. So this is what we're going to do. Based on a timely use case from one of the organizations I work with, there was a need to be able to distill the upcoming changes happening in and around Microsoft Copilot that could impact the deployment, adoption, and admin teams. They needed to understand why these updates were important and how they could approach the changes. So I chose 3 public sources where these updates were occurring. In this case, the Microsoft 365 public roadmap, the Copilot release notes, and the technical blogs repository. Secondly, I determined the time window that I wanted to see these updates from. And thirdly, I defined the different worksheets that I wanted the Excel agent to build in the workbook. Let me show you. From the M365 Copilot app, we can either mention the Excel agent from the chat interface, but in this case, I'm going to paste my instructions into the Excel agent itself. This is quite a detailed prompt, so I'll go through that after the demo. So let's submit that. Now, the whole process took around 15 minutes, so I've sped up sections of the processing here. Before producing the results, the agent asks questions related to the workbook that it's going to create. In this case, the primary success metric, where I chose faster deployment decisions, what to show for the action worksheets, and finally, the critical Copilot integration areas that I made sure that they must be looked at equally. And in the last step, the agent creates the workbook. Now, once it's created, it shows an inline read-only version of the workbook for us to review. It's decided on 29 different updates as part of the resetup that was defined in the prompt and created the repository including a generated source ID that will help later in the workbook when we understand the relevancy of updates based on the actions that have been aligned to the different teams. So looking at the repository, I also requested a summary, the impacted Microsoft products, and also an impact to the organization column where we can see why this update is so important. After that, we have the timeline of features and when they will be deployed with their significance, and then onto the 3 action worksheets that show the relevant updates for the type of team, how it fits into the timeline, the actions to be carried out, and what the success criteria is, and all sorted by priority. So now that we have created the workbook, we can make edits by clicking on the Open in Excel button. And from here, we can verify the content and use the Copilot sidebar to continue to make natural language Copilot requests based on edits. So now that I've shown you the demo, let me show you the prompt I created for the Excel agent, as I believe this is an important skill even when using agents. I'll break up the instructions I used into 3 parts. First, I defined my purpose and the reference data. In this case, the 3 public sources of Microsoft 365 updates. And then in the setup, we established the subject matter, personas, and time range, including the format of the table we want the agent to create. Remember, we're doing this for consistency since we could be running this on a frequent basis. Don't forget that you can define the subject matter, sources, and time range to suit whichever topic is important to you, such as compliance, security, or even your own organization's data, and not just Microsoft's. Next, the request itself defines what each worksheet in the workbook must include. So the main repository of updates, the timeline of events based on the time range, and the description of the team action worksheets that sets out our expectations. So this is to be formatted to show the priority of each action, including conditional formatting. At the end, I also include a set of constraints to keep Copilot focused on the deliverables. This demo has shown how we can use the Excel agent to generate the repository. However, we could have done the same thing by triggering the agent by mentioning it inside of Copilot chat, or pasting the instructions directly into the Copilot sidebar inside Excel itself. It's your choice. I hope this gives you the inspiration to try it out yourself and adapt it to your own way of working.